This video is sponsored by Box, the online technology store. Visit box.co.uk for the best deals on TVs, soundbars, and all your other technology needs. Hello everyone, Vincent from HDTV Test here. I wanted to do a quick video comparing the Panasonic HZ1000 and the Sony A8 OLED, but judging from how much is there to talk about, it's going to be approaching 10 minutes, which is not really conducive to my unrealistic target of producing one video a day. On your left is the Panasonic HZ1000, on your right is the Sony A8, also known as the Bravia A8H in the USA. Both OLEDs are 65 inches in screen size, allowing us to judge upscaling and motion performance on a level playing field. Both televisions have been calibrated to the common standards used within the film and broadcast industry. For SDR or Standard Dynamic Range, that means D65 white point, 2.4 gamma and Rec 709 colors. For HDR10, it's the same D65 white point, but ST2084 PQ-EOTF and DCI-P3 colors within Rec 2020 container. Normally, I would launch into some sort of disclaimer about how you shouldn't judge picture quality directly from this video. But I'm past caring now, so go ahead and judge away. Since all OLED TVs are capable of true blacks anyway, let's kick off this comparison with near black performance, where the Panasonic HZ1000 generally had the upper hand, as you can see from this quantization test pattern just above black, as well as this heavily compressed footage from Game of Thrones, in which the Panasonic HZ1000 suppressed near black chrominance overshoot or flashing artifacts better than the Sony A8 or A8H. The HZ1000 was also able to retrieve and present the darkest shadow detail in a slightly clearer manner than the Sony A8, partly because Panasonic has implemented more precise calibration controls near black, allowing us to track flat 2.4 gamma. Occasionally though, the tapered near black gamma on the Bravia A8 resulted in cleaner gradation in bit-starved content, and on top of that, the Sony has a smooth gradation decontouring filter that could reduce in-content polarization even further. Dark uniformity was better on our Sony A8 review sample. The darker patch on the left side of the screen wasn't as obvious as that seen on our Panasonic HZ1000 review unit. However, you have to understand that screen uniformity will vary from unit to unit with panel lottery at play, so please don't start generalizing that all Sony A8s will have cleaner dark uniformity than all Panasonic HZ1000s. Colors were more accurate out of the box on the Panasonic HZ1000, although the gap was significantly reduced after calibration. With all motion settings disabled, both TVs presented 24 frames per second films smoothly without any sign of telecinic judder, even though the Panasonic used 5.5 pull-down, while the Sony was doing 4.4 pull-down. However, like many Panasonic TVs we've reviewed, the HZ1000 exhibited very rare frame skipping in 24Hz HDR movies during certain scenes containing slow-moving fog, smoke, or faces. Going up to 50Hz or 60Hz content, both TVs successfully resolved 1080 lines of motion resolution on this horizontally scrolling test pattern with a combination of motion interpolation and blackframe insertion. But because Panasonic's blackframe insertion was capped at 60Hz on its mid and max setting, whereas the Sony's was still operating at 120Hz on the medium setting, fast action sports such as football actually looked clearer on the Bravia A8. For copyright reasons, the footage had to be blurred out, like a middle finger before watershed. Moving further up the refresh rate ladder, the Panasonic HZ1000 doesn't accept 120Hz video signal, while the Sony A8 can at least display 1080p at 120Hz. When it came to upscaling sub 4K content, the Sony A8 was slightly better than the Panasonic HZ1000, which showed some minor chroma bleed at the periphery of this Luma zone plate pattern from the Spears & Munsell HD benchmark disc. On this SMPTE RP133 test card in 576i, the Sony A8 exhibited less junk pixels, yet still appeared a bit sharper, an advantage that transferred across to real-world material too. For example, this grubby standard definition broadcast from ITV3. Even on 1080p Blu-ray, the Sony A8 or A8H managed to etch out a bit more detail from Daniel Craig's face than the Panasonic HZ1000. Video-based interlacing was similar on both TVs according to this 1080i test pattern from the excellent Meridio 7G signal generator. Samsung and LG are still ahead in this area, suppressing jaggies in a smoother manner. Bright uniformity was superb on both our review samples, with no noticeable dirty screen effect, bending or color tinting as we cycle through full-field gray slides. For HDR, peak brightness on our Panasonic HZ1000 review unit measured around 100 nits higher than that on our Sony A8 review sample, an edge that could be seen on this luminance loading pattern from the Spears & Munsell UHD HDR benchmark disc. Thanks to its inbuilt dynamic tone mapping, the Sony A8 managed to close the gap for the most part in terms of average picture level or APL. But from time to time, the superior peak brightness and less aggressive ABL of the Panasonic HZ1000 still shone through, particularly when it came to specular highlights in bright HDR scenes. Native gradation was top-notch on both televisions, although the Sony A8 has an ace up its sleeve in the form of smooth gradation, which can reduce in-content polarization without affecting fine detail excessively. Both televisions support Dolby Vision, but the Panasonic HZ1000 uses TV-led Dolby Vision, whereas the Bravia A8, like all Sony TVs with Dolby Vision support, uses the player-led or low-latency version, which isn't as good, since the Dolby Vision mapping is performed by the source player based upon a generic edit, without knowledge of the peak brightness and color gamut data specific to an individual unit. As a result, sometimes very bright highlight detail, even in Dolby Vision, would appear clipped on the Sony A8, which would be blown out even further in the less accurate Dolby Vision bright mode. The Sony A8 also exhibited near-black polarization in certain Netflix shows played through the TV's internal Netflix app. For gaming, input lag measured 22 milliseconds on the Panasonic HZ1000 and marginally lower at 18 milliseconds on the Sony A8 or A8H. Let's sum up. Both the Panasonic HZ1000 and the Sony A8 are fantastic OLED TVs in their own right, but I'm going to give you some pointers to make your purchase decision easier. And as always, I'm only focusing on picture quality. If you care about how the remote control feels in your hand, this is not that kind of channel. Assuming you're not sensitive to the rare 24Hz HDR frame drops, the Panasonic HZ1000 is better for watching movies. It calibrates better, is more color accurate, has better near-black handling, higher peak brightness, and superior Dolby Vision implementation. Where the Sony A8 or A8H stands out is in motion performance. 24Hz content is handled smoothly, be it in SDR or HDR, and the TV can achieve higher motion clarity with its 120Hz blackframe insertion or BFI. In other words, if I watch a lot of movies, I would go for the Panasonic. If I watch a lot of sports, I'd pick the Sony. For playing games, most serious gamers probably already have their hearts set on an LG OLED with HDMI 2.1 support, but between the HZ1000 and the A8, the Sony is slightly better for gaming due to lower input lag, auto game mode switching with PlayStation consoles, and the ability to accept 120Hz video signal, albeit limited to 1080p resolution. So, what do you guys think? Was I being fair in this video? Or was I biased towards Panasonic? Was I biased towards Sony? Or was I biased towards LG, like some of you always accuse me of? Let me know in the YouTube comment section below. My next comparison video is going to be the Samsung Q950TS versus the Sony ZH8 or Z8H, battle of the 8K TVs. So hit the notification bell and you can be in with a chance to be the first douchebag to post the first comment in that video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.